Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so Game 7 is in the books. 100-96 is the score, and the Boston Celtics are going to the NBA Finals. Congratulations to their fans, their franchise, everybody on their side of the fence. Kudos to you guys from Laker Nation. We hate you, but at the same time, we respect the hell out of you guys. We know you guys are the truth. You put together the best roster in the Eastern Conference by far this year. It showed the depth, the trade that you made for Derek White, picking up Daniel Tice, empowering JT Money and Jaylen Brown finally after all these years to just take over and have a stretch of a couple years where they can just be the stars without having to share time with nobody. Grant Williams and empowering him to play well, hiring the coach, Ime Udoka, who's been absolutely just stellar. Making sure that Marcus Smart stays a part of the organization despite having so many different free agency situations that could have went left or right. He's stuck with the franchise. Jaylen Brown, I'm just very impressed overall with the Boston Celtics. And as a Laker fan, I can't appreciate you guys, but as an NBA fan, you guys are top tier, man. Nothing short. Top freaking tier. Tonight, I saw a very, very, very tough game. Tough. It was like climbing Mount Everest for both teams. The Boston Celtics trying to fend off the Heat, and the Heat just continuing to churn in this series. They struggled. They couldn't get nothing going, and they still had an opportunity to win this game. Max Strus hit a massive shot down the stretch. Jimmy Butler had a chance to hit a three-point shot straight away with space with 11 seconds to go. In transition, a shot he had made earlier in the game, and it just didn't fall. And I hated the shot, Jimmy. I hated it so much. And you did so much good tonight. 35 points, put the team on your back. They couldn't have got that far without you. I debated in my head how I wanted to approach this. I'm saying, God, do I want to get on his case? And I look at him walking through the tunnel. I'm like, nah, I don't. He knows that was a bad shot. He doesn't need to be necessarily pointed out for it. I think the pundits will do enough of that. I think too much credit will be given to him missing that shot, and not enough credit will probably be given to the Boston Celtics defense, which really is what won this game. They did not let up, especially in that first half. They got out to an early start in transition, making sure that they were hitting buckets, making sure that they were in position to fight for rebounds, even though they weren't necessarily winning those totals. The Heat were a little feistier than they were, but they still managed to stand tall and just ultimately withstand every run that the Heat gave them. And the Heat gave them runs, but also the Heat also could not help themselves because they could not score the ball, as they've had trouble with all series long. And this in the issues, in the issues that they have, you could still see them pushing through. Like, they're going up against the best defense in the game in the Boston Celtics. They're a deficient offensive team, and they still found a way to have an opportunity to win this game. Like, it's just the battling and what the Heat were up against, the injuries that they had to face, the missed shots, the poor blowout games at home. All of it came down to them having one opportunity to either make a shot that could give them a 1-point lead or brick the shot that ultimately did lose the game. I hated Jimmy's shot because ultimately he gave himself no opportunity for recovery. There was no one in position to rebound the shot. You got Al Horford there who's yes, there's a lot of space. You got the shot off, but Al Horford is long and tall, so he can cover that space quicker than most. So even though you had that space, his length allowed him to contest the shot very, very well. And you got to give Al Horford credit because he was phenomenal tonight, by the way. Even though he didn't score the ball like that, his three-point shot has been waning in this series as the games have progressed. His defense is not. And he made some tough defensive plays down the stretch of that game. Marcus Smart, same thing. Just phenomenal. I got more respect for Marcus Smart leaving this series than I did coming into it. That dude is one of the toughest people in the league. One of the most worthy opponents in the league. It's Marcus Smart. I think he's one of the best defensive players out there, and him winning Defensive Player of the Year, I got a chance to see firsthand what he can do withstanding injury. This man messed his ankle up in this series. just as bad as AD and Bron did. It was the exact same injury, and he came back, played hard, recovered from it. I don't know how these guys recovered from their injuries on both sides, him and Jimmy, and everybody else, man. They fought. Even Tyler came out there and tried to give it something. Kyle Lowry played injured. Max Strus, he was hurt. I mean, everybody was playing hurt in this series, man. And I think about guys like Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin, who had good series but will probably be forgotten. Think about guys like Peyton Pritchard, who hit some shots in this series. You know what I'm saying? It's some unsung guys that really made their mark in this series. Bam Adebayo, for all of his struggles, he did have a good Game 7. Showed up. Played hard. But I just think that, down the stretch, the Miami Heat started doing the things that you wanted to see them do throughout the game. And in the very end, they didn't do the things that they did down the stretch that helped them cut it. What the Miami Heat did with like a minute and a half to go was they just started attacking the basket. The same way they did in the first quarter. Drive and layup, drive, layup, drive, layup. They got 2 quick and easy bucket layups down the stretch with 1:30 to go. That's how they even put themselves in a position to be down by 2. It's because they did things the right way. It was them messing up in the fourth quarter, trying to force contested jump shots that ultimately put them in a position to have to fight so hard to come back. It's those easy layup buckets that they could have been striking and trying to attack throughout the third and fourth quarter that would have gave them an opportunity to have much more scoring on the board. They just had too many scoring droughts because they were attempting too many bad shots. That's what it came down to. The Miami Heat attempting bad shots because the Boston Celtics put them in positions to feel as flustered as they were, throwing so many good looks at them. And on the other hand, the Heat were doing the same to the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics were not as efficient from behind the arc as you would like them to be, but they still hit enough of them, which was a problem both teams had tonight, to be honest, to a degree. But, you just got to give credit to Jayson Tatum. The type of line he put up tonight was just defensive numbers, offensive numbers, rebounding numbers, assist numbers. The man did it all tonight. He deserved that MVP trophy for the Eastern Conference, the Larry Bird trophy. Well-deserved. He gave tribute to our guy, Kobe Bryant. I'm sure Kobe is proud of Jayson Tatum, even though I know he wasn't rooting for him. JT Money, he was not rooting for you, bro. I hope you don't think he was rooting for you. He wasn't. He wasn't. I know Kobe. He bleeds purple and gold. He wants the Celtics to lose at all times. But he wants you to succeed, so it's a torn situation there. And I think myself, I feel the exact same way. Because we really do appreciate Jayson Tatum, his affinity for our guy, his affinity for our franchise. We know he's a fan. We know this. But he was drafted where he was drafted. We passed him up. That's our fault. We should have drafted him, and we know it. So there's no salt going to be thrown on his head from this end. I'm very happy that Jayson Tatum was the victor tonight because he's a player who always comes out and respects the game. He seems like he's a good guy. He's a great kid there, and you just want to see the guys like that succeed. Even though the media will try to make you hate them, they're not going to succeed there. Got a lot of love for Jayson Tatum here. Got a lot of love for Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Grant Williams, Time Lord. I'm a fan of every last one of those guys. It's a damn shame they're wearing green. I'm happy to see them in the finals. Deep down, I really am happy to see those men in the finals as a collective. They deserve to be there. Straight up. And, I feel bad for Miami. As bad as much credit as I want to give to the Celtics, it's as sad as I feel for the Heat. Because the Heat really did show so much mental toughness. And I really do think that Tyler Hero not being healthy could have been the difference. I mean, that kid's good for 30 points in a game like this. You know what his stuff is. He's a striker. He's going to slash. He's going to hit threes. He's going to dance on people. He's going to do all kinds of stuff that he would have done tonight, I think, and he would have done throughout this series if he would not have been injured. And I just feel like that needs to, of course, be remembered no different than any other situation where players are missing. And it was a big missing piece for them because of their deficiencies offensively, particularly. You got to give a lot of credit to Tyler Hero's father. He told everybody that he didn't believe that he could win a single game without his dad. And while we were laughing, those who didn't watch the Heat, we sitting here like, yeah, okay, that's kind of cap. He's trying to sound like LeVar Ball. No, he wasn't. The functionality of the Heat is that of needing the piece that is his son in order to close games out. They needed them 25, 30 points. That's why he was able to be the sixth man of the year, because his role was requiring him to score that amount. They look for him. They need him to do that. So it's consistent, and it's a great role for him, and it was missing in the series. And they couldn't close games out. They couldn't score easy buckets. They couldn't hit shots. They were relying upon guys like Max Strus, who are not, efficient players, Kyle Lowry, stuff like that. Guys like that to hit shots. And it just was a testament to how great Jimmy played, because he was able to essentially cover all the deficiencies offensively that they had throughout the series. They don't score basically 10 buckets tonight without Jimmy buckets tonight. When you consider 35 points, they needed every last one of them. So I look at the testament to what Jimmy was doing, and I felt like he deserved that MVP just as much as Jayson Tatum did, to be honest with you. Just as much. I would have been happy if they gave it to him, even as a loser. That's how well he showed up in this game. But overall, it wasn't about this game. It was about the entire series. And I think overall, Jayson Tatum was the guy who you can say made it happen from game to game to game to game. He did have some turnover issues, had some games where he didn't shoot as well. But his playmaking in the series was fantastic. I think his defense in the series was underrated. And he found his way through his shooting woes. His last series, we talked a lot about it. He wasn't shooting very well. We pointed out his inefficiency shooting the ball, his tendency to take straightaway shots and brick them all the time. He worked all that out. He looked at the film from the games where he struggled, and apparently, it seems to me, that he has learned exactly what he needs to do, and he's attacking differently now. He's attacking from different angles. He's using the pass more, and he sees the fruit and rebounding the ball. And like I said, his defense, he doesn't get enough credit. He just simply does not get enough credit. His length and his ability on that end, on the help side, in all these different various ways, he just really is a great defender. And so when you put all that together, you understand why Jayson Tatum's the MVP of this series, and you understand why his team is in the NBA Finals. He had a great to do with that. So, hey, look, man, Laker fan, my feelings are hurt, man. I'm crushed. We just tied with these guys, and it looked like they have a good chance of beating the Warriors, even though I'm not necessarily thinking about that right now. At the end of the day, they're at the altar. They did their part. After all said and done, the Celtics did their part. I called them out earlier in the season, telling them they need to do their part. They did it. They got to the finals. It was my team that didn't show up. I'll hold that forever. And I'll give them credit. I'll give the Celtics credit, because at the end of the day, when I called them out, they weren't this team. They were a not-so-good team at the start of this season. They were a team that you could look at and say, and then maybe they could beat a couple guys. Maybe they can get out of the first round, but ultimately they're just not doing enough. They don't have enough. Back of the bench is not very good. They need to get rid of some guys, and they did that. And they brought in some guys that could help them even more. They were able to withstand injury. They had a tough-minded defensive approach. They had talented offensive players that could play defense too. And the Boston Celtics are your Eastern Conference champions because of it. It was evident to me that they were going to be this good very early on, because they were blowing teams out. Back in January, it became very clear after they had made the moves they were making that they were going to be a tough team to deal with. Scoring 130 points and holding other teams like 90 points. You could clearly see they were the team to beat the Eastern Conference early on. But you just didn't know if it was going to come into fruition, because you had those super monsters over there, and KD and Kyrie and Joel and all these guys, Giannis. But it was clear that the Celtics were the best overall team. The Heat were in that mix too, but you just wondered if the Heat would be able to do just enough with more of their talent spread out amongst more players than the Celtics, who have it more condensed in fewer areas, tougher, harder hitting superstars. But really, at the end of the day, the healthier team won this series. And for all the great things you could say about the Boston Celtics and how well they were put together, you could say the same thing about the Miami Heat and how they had that next man up approach. I don't think too many teams could rely upon players that they did and get the success out of them that they did. Names that you've never heard of, role players like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus and Caleb Martin had big roles in this series. You know what I mean? And I don't think many teams and many coaches could get as much out of those guys as Eric Spoelstra has. One of the best coaches in the game, who I'm sure is having a tough time swallowing the fact that he couldn't get over that mountaintop, but he strategized well enough to get them damn close. And it was a lot of his adjustments that were raging successes in this series, which is why they were able to win 3 games. And I think he needs a whole lot of credit for getting this thing to a Game 7 with as many injuries and as much adversity as he was facing against that defense. So I think all the credit in the world goes to the Heat for getting this far. It's a tough way to end, but you don't hold your head down when you get to the Eastern Conference Finals Game 7 with 1 possession away from getting it to the finals. You definitely don't hang your head. But you do look and you have nightmares about that shot. You have nightmares because you know if Jimmy Butler drives the ball, all he has to do is do a shimmy on Al Horford, and you're forcing Al Horford to foul you, putting you at the line to tie the game up with about 6 or 11 seconds, somewhere in that range. That is a better percentage opportunity, because at least if you do that, even if they don't call the foul, you got all your men down there in that scrum. Maybe you get a 50-50 ball tip in, last second heave, something can go right. But when you take a shot like that and there's nobody in the vicinity to rebound it but Celtics, you're in transition, expiring clock, no shot clock left, and that's the only, you get that shot off. If it falls, you look like Kobe. But if it bricks, you have 0% chance of recovery. 0. You're going to die with that shot. And I just don't believe in playing low percentages. It's the game of basketball. You play the high percentage play. That's what we're doing out here. So if that's the case, with your season on the line and your superstar who has 35 points, who nobody else can do anything, it's either him, and you're going to live and die with him. It's got to be him. His responsibility is to not just be the star, but to efficiently close the deal. That by default will make you the hero. That'll make you the star. But putting yourself in a position to have low percentage, high momentum, all-time great shots like that, the thing about all-time great shots like that is that the ones that fall are usually taken in situations where there's no other option. If you gotta force something like that and it falls, chances are the guy didn't really have no other thing he could have did. Jimmy had a million things he could have did. And while I think that was a good shot, because there was no one in vicinity to rebound it, and because he was in transition with the clock expiring, it had 0 room for error. 0 room. You got to force the issue, man. It's the only way you were able to even get in that position, was getting easy layups. That was the only thing that was really working. You couldn't hit no threes, couldn't hit free throws, couldn't do nothing. But you could get those field goals off. And in that situation, an NBA champion is going to make sure that he plays the percentages and gets the high percentage play off. Not the hero shot, the high percentage shot, because that's what's going to win the game. Trying to aspire to be the hero is what puts you in a position to lose. The Celtics played team ball, had many more assists than the Heat tonight. They had got more out of their team overall. They had about 4 or 5 players, double figures, 3 of them over 25 points, if I'm not mistaken. The plus minuses were so much better on the Celtics side as well. So at this point, there's no more time to talk about the Heat. The Heat are in the past now. As simple as that. We give congratulations to the Heat, but we break them down no more. Now we focus on the NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. And we will talk about that series, of course, in a later future video. I will discuss further about how I feel about all of this in a different video as well. But overall, this is just a time for the Boston Celtics fans to enjoy themselves, to get back to where they belong in the NBA Finals, where they've been a trillion times and have won many, many times, but not as of late. And they got a tough battle ahead with this Splash Brother team that, quite frankly, has no trouble scoring at all. And while they're a great defensive team, they had trouble stopping a team that had trouble scoring. I'm going to leave you guys with that. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching, and I'm out.